We kind of just had an idea of where we wanted to go because there were some areas like in the country where we thought we might want to live. So we really wanted to like hit those areas up. And then also probably just be somewhere south, like more for the winter. And so we kind of started that way. And then we definitely just wanted to like experience some things that we had on our like list, of what we had wanted to do just overall in adulthood in our family, so we kind of did that the first year. And then eventually we kind of went back home for the summer so the kids could see friends and stuff like that. And then we kind of just kept kind of doing these circles, like back up to the Midwest, kind of back down to Florida for the winter. And then in between just kind of doing different trips. And so the more we traveled, the more we realized there's just so much to see. So,
right.
Yeah. I mean, it was just, there's just a lot of cool stuff in America.
Hello and welcome to the Thrive Communities podcast, a place where real homeschool families share their stories and the heart behind their decision to educate at home. At Thrive Communities, our mission is to support and connect homeschool families in a community where children and parents can truly thrive. Whether you are new to homeschooling, considering it, or have been on the journey for years, we're so glad you're here.
All right. Welcome to the Thrive Communities podcast. My name is Rochelle Laskey. I get the privilege of being the host today. And my special guest today is Brynn Boyd. Brynn, welcome to the podcast.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
All right. So we are going to talk about some road schooling today, some RV life, and Thrive Communities, of course. So to begin, tell me a little bit about yourself and your family.
So I have 3 kids, ranging from 15 to 10. And I'm originally from the Midwest. I grew up in Wisconsin. My husband grew up in Minnesota. So we're just kind of, just good old Midwesterners that have been kind of just traveling around the country and actually recently just landed in Florida just a couple years ago. So that's who we are. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, and I know a little bit about your background is that you guys have road schooled in an RV full time. So Before you hit the road, what did family life look like for you?
So we kind of just had the typical, we had a house and then we had some kids and then we got a bigger house and our kids went to a school, like a local public school. It was a little more like a charter school, a little smaller than the typical public. But, we just kind of got in this rhythm of just life as we were told and expected to be in. And it wasn't, I had, when I first had kids and when I had thought about being a mom, I had always thought about homeschooling because I just thought it'd be really neat. I was a teacher. I loved kids. And I knew I would love my kids. And I was like, why would I want to get rid of them, all day type of a thing. But I think when it really came down to it, was just kind of like, preschool. And then, this school is really great that they got into. And, so we just kind of like got in this, just a cycle of like what was expected. And I didn't know anybody that homeschooled really. I didn't have any family or friends. So it really wasn't a thing. I'd always talked about it for middle school because I was like, middle school is the worst. So maybe I'll just pull my older daughter in middle school, but it was never really a thing before that. So we were just kind of like in sports, living in a house, just kind of doing the daily grind that the typical American does.
For sure. And then what sparked the idea of road schooling?
Also, my husband had always wanted to move away from the Midwest. Just the winters are so dreary, but we didn't really know where we wanted to go. And I think like a lot of people, 2020 ended up kind of being a catalyst for us because Minnesota was really shut down. Even like the whole year of 2020 into 2021, they had a lot of cancellations, tons of school out, they closed school again after March. And so we were just kind of like at home doing school and thinking like, what are we doing? Like, if we're going to learn about the Grand Canyon, why don't we just go? My husband worked remote, like we were just at home doing school anyway. And so it kind of just gave us the opportunity to say, let's go on the road and let's go see some stuff and experience it firsthand. And then maybe we can find a place to live like while we're traveling the US. So we can kind of just check out all these towns and, just kind of see what there was to offer.
Yeah.
We had never RV'd. We'd never been camping. We had never done anything. Yeah. So we just were like, I just started following some people on social media, and my husband was like, okay, let's go. And so that's what we did. Yeah. So we left in November of 2020 from Minnesota. And then we set out on what we thought was maybe like a year, maybe just the school year. And then like the next summer we'd find a place. But once we realized what we had and what we were seeing, it was just like, there's just way too much stuff to see and do. And so we didn't want to stop. And so we just kind of kept going. And also we just didn't really know where we wanted to be yet, And so we just kept going, and we loved it.
That's amazing. I love that. I think you're right that when 2020 happened, it did help people kind of shift priorities and go, I want something different, and make those changes, when there was just a distinct reckoning time, if you will. And it helped you just really say, let's do this, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What did your friends and family say when you were like, well, we don't really camp, and we're going to buy an RV, and we're going to change our whole life? Like, what did they think?
Honestly, my family was pretty supportive of it. Like they're pretty adventurous and just like kind of traveled and go with the flow and didn't have a problem. My husband's family, his parents were like, okay, whatever you think is best. Like we could tell that they would like never do that, but they weren't really going to stand in our way because they knew that was something that we wanted. And, but otherwise, like siblings, they were all just kind of like, you guys are crazy. Our friends actually had the hardest time with it because they didn't really understand. Like, if you want to downsize, then just downsize. Or if you want to pull your kids from school, but it was really, for us, it was kind of like a Band-Aid needed to be ripped off so that we could kind of like change the trajectory of what our family was doing. And it didn't seem as simple as like, hey, we're tired of all this stuff and we just want to like live more simple than saying, okay, let's Marie Kondo this house and kind of, you know what I mean? Because like you're still in the same patterns. So you still do the same things. And so, especially with the homeschooling, like we wanted our kids to have relationships that we didn't have with our siblings. And so it was like, what do we need to do different so that we can raise our kids in a different way than we were raised, so that we can figure out a way for them to just grow up in a different way. And plus, we really valued being outside, and we wanted the kids to be in nature. And we just felt like we were just realizing like how much less kids do that than when we were kids even. Yes. And so it was like, what do we need to do? So when we ended up RVing and we met other families, we realized that everybody kind of had the same thoughts. It was like, we're barefoot, we're playing with sticks, we're outside from sunup to sundown, and that's what everybody wanted for their kids too. So it was just kind of like, we just found this culture of really like-minded people that we didn't experience in our neighborhood in the Midwest, Yeah.
Oh, I love that so much. What was the biggest fear you had before moving into an RV?
Honestly, we just were kind of worried about missing our friends or family that we had because we knew we'd be away. We also didn't really know how we would deal without having the stuff, like it's easier said than done, saying, okay, we're only having this many pairs of shoes and we don't have access to these things or, stuff like that. So that was kind of scary. I would say the hardest part was just the size of the space at first. I always tell people like it took us 3 months and everybody freaked out at least once, like what did we do? Like the ceilings are so short and you know what I mean? Just like there's no space for everybody. But then it's like once we kind of freaked out and then we ended up having the RV feel like home because it was like our stuff, our location. We felt comfortable going back there, looking forward to being in our own bed, like that kind of a thing, like that you're not on vacation anymore. Right. Then we were able to really settle in. And so it was a lot easier after that.
Yeah. It probably, if you would have known ahead of time, we need 3 months and we're all going to freak out a little bit and then we'll be fine. That probably would have been helpful to know. But, like you said, rip the Band-Aid off and you figure it out as you go, right?
Yeah.
It's part of the process. I would say your kids probably learned a lot in that time too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Sure. And it's formative as a family. I agree. One of the reasons that we homeschool also is I want a close-knit family. I want my kids to be friends, not just siblings. And when you build in that time, and especially through travel, you bond in a different way and it's really special.
Yes. Yep. For sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What were logistics like? Because like you said, you had the house and you had the stuff. And so you had to downsize and sell things and plan routes. And I don't know how much you winged it or if you said we're going to go to such and such a state for a while. Like, how did you plan things out and downsize and all of those logistics?
So we have some heirloom furniture and some things that we've like curated over time, like great grandparents and, you know, things like that. So we decided to keep a storage unit that was basically like the size of a 1-car garage. So it had some of our like bigger pieces of furniture, you know, family photos and things like that. So some families get rid of everything and then keep like a box of pictures at their mom's house or something like that. But we decided to keep a storage unit. We had about a 3,000 square foot house. And so what we did was we had two weekends of garage sales, and one was mostly like household items, and then the other was all just kid stuff. And we just put name your price on everything that we laid out, just ton, you know, and we had family and friends like go through the house and be like, I want these chairs. And are you getting rid of this mirror? And you know what I mean? Just stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so then people would just come to the garage sale and just be like, what if I gave you $25 for all this? And we'd be like, great. You know, and just get rid of it. Because we knew that like everything else is basically going to be donated. So it was really just like, you know, how can we get you what you need and we can get something for it.
Mm-hmm.
Some stuff was harder than others, but we also realized like anything, you know, maybe under $50, like we can just rebuy, you know, we're not, you know, personally connected to our clothing hampers. You know, right. So stuff like that, you know. And so it was exhausting. I'll tell you, it was exhausting. But it was also just kind of freeing to just say, like, we're just done with stuff and we don't need stuff because we are more of an adventure family and we do value experiences and relationships. So it just felt like we weren't living what we had said what our priorities were. And so this way it was like, just really allowing us to do that, where it was like, we're not connected to things, we're connected to relationships. So we decided in September and we were gone the first week of November. So it was really fast. It was really fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we kind of just had an idea of where we wanted to go because there were some areas like in the country where we thought we might want to live. So we really wanted to like hit those areas up and then also probably just be somewhere south, like more for the winter. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of started that way. And then we definitely just wanted to like experience some things that we had on our like list, you know, of what we had wanted to do just overall in adulthood in our family, you know. So we kind of did that the first year. And then eventually we kind of went back home for the summer so the kids could see friends and stuff like that. And then we kind of just kept kind of doing these circles, like back up to the Midwest, kind of back down to Florida for the winter. And then in between, just kind of doing different trips. And so the more we traveled, the more we realized there's just so much to see. So,
right.
Yeah. I mean, it was just, there's just a lot of cool stuff in America.
For sure. We've been privileged to take our kids to all 50 states. So travel is important for us too. And it's amazing the things you experience and learn and the beauty that is in this country. So I highly recommend everybody just get outside your local area and just go on a road trip. This country is beautiful and so diverse.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. What did a typical day of homeschooling on the road look like? Because I know that can look different for everyone.
Yeah. So we traveled probably, we kind of found our sweet spot at about 2 weeks. So we would stay somewhere for 2 weeks and then we would like move on to the next location. We tried really hard not to travel super far distances. Like some people will just cross like the country and be like, we're driving 18 hours to this next place. But we tried to really keep it in between like 4 hours, 6 hours, maybe like to the next location so that we didn't have crazy travel. And also my husband worked like Monday through Friday. So what we did was we would basically do schoolwork in the morning, you know, once we woke up, maybe 8 or 9 till about noon. And then we would just play outside. The kids would do stuff. Each location, we'd try to like get to one, maybe like playground or somewhere in town that the kids could experience without my husband. We would have at least one hike, like an evening or like an outing, you know, in nature. We would try one new restaurant. So we were really big into like trying the local cuisines. Like in Louisiana, we're having shrimp, you know, crawfish étouffée, you know, because we're like, this is where we are. Let's go find something. Yeah. And then on the weekends, then we would do like the major sightseeing. So if it was like a national park or, you know, a state park or a theme park or like whatever we were kind of there for, we would try to do that on the weekends. So we really were able to hit a reasonable amount of stuff. It's hard because you're like kind of living a life on vacation, but you also have laundry, you know? So
Right.
it was like half days were really like the schoolwork. And then the afternoon was all for play. And then, we'd do some chores and whatnot. And then we tried to travel on like Sundays basically so that we could get to the new place and then experience like 2 full weeks and 1 full weekend of exploring. So once we started, we moving less, like especially when we would get to Florida in the winter, it was really just mostly like all the kids were doing schoolwork in the morning and then they were just playing from like after lunch until, you got called in for night after a bonfire or something like that. So that was generally the routine.
That's awesome. I know you already talked about learning to live in that space, but what surprised you the most during the first few months?
We were, really able to pull up like some routines that we had never had. Like, you had to hand wash all your dishes and we had to walk our dogs to the bathroom, stuff like that. So we were able to kind of just become this like well-oiled machine where we just all kind of like knew our role. We took care of it. It was done. And then everybody got to play. I started reading, like I'd be sitting outside on a patio chair doing something for me, which I'd never done because I was always busy, like taking care of the house. We would have these like 15-minute pickups where like everybody would just work for 15 minutes at night and it would be like completely clean because it was such a small space that it wasn't like, it couldn't get too crazy because you couldn't really move. We had a great time, planning like travel days because it's like we had to pack everything up, reset every single thing, get on the road. So we just started developing just really easy just routines that really helped us like be really efficient so we could enjoy our time together and get our stuff done while also, living this like vacation life. So that was surprising to me. I mean, my kids always had chore charts and things like that, but it was definitely like a team effort to make the RV work.
Yeah, I bet. Did it take you a while to figure out the routine of like being in a place for 2 weeks, like that felt comfortable, or traveling on Sundays? And when do we do laundry? And how did that work? And was it easy to find the routines? Was it hard?
Yeah, I mean, at first we kind of just planned things for like what we thought. And so a couple of times we moved like every week and then we just realized it was so much work to like unpack, pack, unpack, pack. I mean, if you think about it, like going to a national park isn't just a thing everybody just does on a Tuesday and then that's it, So it's like you're packing stuff you're researching hikes. You're weeding out all of the different paths you could go. You're downloading maps because there's no service. You're packing like lunches to go. You're packing clothing to go. Like we had in our truck, like extra clothes in case people got wet and extra snacks in case we got stuck somewhere, or you know what I mean? So it's like just kind of half living out of this car. But then every time you get home, then you're unpacking from like a major event, you're unpacking all these like coolers and travel bags and water backpacks and, stuff like that. So it did take us a little bit. But once we realized what we didn't like, we didn't want to be rushed. We wanted to make sure we could enjoy it. Then we really found a sweet spot. I would say it was probably maybe like 6 months in or 7 months in that we really realized what our pace was. And now other families do other things, like they'll be like full month or they just want a few days or whatever, but for us, that's what worked.
Yeah. I hear you really saying that it helped you hone in on the values of your family and right, like outdoor time and togetherness time and adventure and even just being together, and everybody has jobs and looking out for each other and stuff like that. I love how road schooling has afforded you that opportunity and that you did the hard thing and you ripped off the Band-Aid and you just went for it. Mm-hmm. How long did you do the road schooling full time?
So we did about 4 years, and we did have a couple extended stays. Like we stayed in Tennessee for almost 6 months. We would stay in Florida the last 2 winters. We stayed for even longer than that, 6 or 7 months. Now, when we were in Florida, we weren't necessarily in the same spot for that whole time, but we were within the same town because our kids started wanting to do activities and sports and things like that. So then we realized okay, well, we can just stay near this town and do an entire baseball season or whatever. Which was good because that's what they really loved. But it was hard because it was like you're kind of half in and half out of life then, because it's like, hey, the moms at 4 o'clock are all going for a walk, but I can't go because I got to bring somebody to practice, or things like that. So that was really hard because we were busy with like regular life stuff. And then we weren't able to be like fully immersed in the RV life that we wanted. And also then you start having stuff. So then it was like our trunk just like always had baseball stuff in it because we don't have room for baseball stuff in the RV. You know what I mean? So that
Right.
was like, it was just like our car had this sort of stuff, so that wasn't as great, but it was good because it was what the kids really wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we really focused like our true travel exploring time in like the summer and then the fall. And then we would kind of come back for like a season. So, and that was maybe the last like 2 years. So the first 2 years we did like extensively travel. And then the last 2 years we kind of started settling more for longer periods of time.
Okay. How did road schooling change the way you think about education? Because I know it was kind of all new at the same time, right? Homeschooling and road schooling
Mm-hmm.
and all of it.
Yeah. So we decided to do just like a really standard curriculum for math and language arts because I just knew that I wasn't going to be able to really piece together my own, like, hey, we're going to the grocery store. Let's do like a math, lesson or something like that. So we did that formal, which is kind of what we did in the mornings. And then because of the amount of like science and history that we did just like out in the world, we didn't really do like a formal curriculum. We were constantly at nature centers. We were constantly doing national park junior ranger books and just like learning and immersing ourselves in the, the battlefields and things like that. So especially when my kids were in elementary school, I just felt like just the exposure overall was plenty of education for them to remember and experience and have hands-on. So that's a little different than some people that we didn't do like this really formal curriculum for those things. But we went to a lot of libraries and we just kind of asked a lot of questions and just found the answers, and so that was kind of how we approached those other subjects.
Love that. What were some of the most meaningful learning experiences your kids had that could not have happened in a traditional classroom? Like you said, junior rangers in the national parks and seeing battlefields and immersing themselves in the science and the history.
Yeah. So one of the places that we went was Kitty Hawk. So in North Carolina, we went out to the Outer Banks, and that was one of the first times I think our kids really felt an impact of like the historical significance of where they were. So you can talk about a battlefield in the Civil War, but it doesn't really affect them like day to day. Like they don't see the results of, you know what I mean? Like they don't understand the results of like what that would have been. But when we were there with airplanes, it was like, this is where they launched. This is the first plane prototype. This is how much they worked. This is the hill. You know what I mean? And so then they know airplanes. They've been in airplanes. They can't believe that it started with this one little glider, that kind of thing. So they were really, I think that was probably the first impactful time for them where they really saw history come alive and how it related to them. And then they also just really loved just the nature of being out in these national parks and seeing like the petrified forest or seeing the fossils in the landscape in the Badlands, or like those kind of things where they're like really getting a grasp on what the world looks like, how it's so diverse, how things were formed, and what are the geography of just like our United States is. And so that was kind of really neat experience for them.
Definitely. We're huge national park fans as well. We've been to quite a few all over the country, and it's amazing just the diversity in the landscapes and the ecosystems and what happens there, and just what the kids can just glean by being there and asking good questions, like you said.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Beautiful. How did your kids grow socially while living this unconventional lifestyle?
So, there's a lot of kids and families. So we were purposeful about trying to join communities of RV families. So we attended rallies and events that were specifically for RV families so we could try to get a community. But what they learned was really how to communicate and meet people and step out of their comfort zone. So it's like any new RV park, there's a playground. We're talking to the kids. We're playing basketball. We're playing tag with people we never met in our lives. So they were just really learned the skill of like introductions, being open to new people and not having, they couldn't just be in this comfort zone. Like, well, this is my one best friend, so that's the only person I'm going to play with, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And then they also really learned how to talk to adults and to have a conversation, because we were just constantly meeting new people. And so that's one of the pieces of feedback I've gotten just about our kids in general, is how conversational they are, how easy they speak to adults, they look adults in the eye, they are freely able to answer questions and have conversations, because they were just kind of forced into that a lot. Just being in a new place. So I think their just flexibility overall has really grew. And I don't know if you were going to ask about this, but like they really had to be flexible, because in the RV world, like anything can go wrong. So it's like we're stuck on the side of the road in Asheville, North Carolina for 6 hours because something happened to our truck. Ooh. So you know what? We're not making it. So hey, let's grab our coloring books. And we're going to sit on this picnic bench and get some snacks, and we're going to wait for the tow truck or whatever, So, or hey, we see someone that needs help, so we're actually going to stop because this RV is pulled over, and we're going to just check on them. Like that kind of a thing. Where, or, oh my gosh, there's this national, site that we didn't know was on the way. So, hey, we were planning on getting there at this time, but now we're going to stop and just have this flexibility. So, hey, this is our plan, but plans can change and it's okay. And we're going to survive. And no matter what, we have what we need, and we have each other, and we have resources, and we'll figure it out, which I don't think a lot of kids always get.
Right. That is invaluable. Like you can't just get that from a book, right?
Right.
Yeah. And that the more that those things went wrong, so to speak, the more they could practice those skills and build that resilience and even empathy for those around them and all those types of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you with the social skills, though. It's so interesting because I feel like that's a misconception of homeschooling, right? Is the social piece.
100%. Yeah.
And I know from the bottom of my heart, after doing this for more than a decade of homeschooling with my kids, that they are so much more well-rounded socially. They can talk to a toddler all the way up to an elderly person, and they're comfortable and they're adaptable. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. And it shines brightly in a culture that doesn't always see that.
And it's so funny because we would be somewhere and the kids could immediately tell who like the public school kids were there, like on the weekend, just like camping, or who was like homeschool kids that were RVing, because they were just completely different types of kids.
Yeah.
But it was, and one of the blessings, especially what I feel about Thrive, honestly, but also on the road, is that it's all ages of kids. So it's like you could be a high schooler and you could be playing catch with an 8-year-old, and they're all invited. And everybody's having fun because they're just, and that's the same thing about Thrive. I find with like my middle school students, make some sort of kindergarten bestie, and they're like playing catch, and they're involved in like football, or they're, and it's just really great to see because they don't have this preconceived notion of like who's a friend and who's not a friend and who's fun. And you know what I mean? They're just like, let's all go enjoy our time together.
Yeah.
Regardless of our age.
Right. I know, that's beautiful. Well, speaking of flexibility, I know your family's travel plans changed for this week. So you're doing this interview in a McDonald's while they're walking the dog.
I am.
That's right. That. It's good to just stay flexible, right? In all areas of life. That's awesome.
For sure. Yeah.
So I know you're now a program lead in Florida for one of our Thrive communities there. And how has Thrive helped your family maintain the things that you loved most about homeschooling and road schooling? How has that blended for you?
Yeah, so we, moving into a house is really great, but it comes with there's no kids anywhere now. So it's like, you can maybe get a neighborhood with like 1 or 2 kids, but it's just not the same as being on the road. So our kids really missed being in a community in groups of kids. And I personally didn't want to be in an organization or a co-op or a parent, a group where it was like all this core curriculum, because I just wanted to be able to be in charge of that. And again, because of my flexibility, I was like, I don't want someone telling me what math assignment is due. Like, what if we want to take a trip, or what if we, grandma came to visit, or, that kind of a thing. So I really loved Thrive because it was enrichment. It was exciting, fun things that I didn't have the time or patience to be doing in my own house.
Yep.
And it was like a community of the same kids every single week, so that my kids could build relationships, meet other students. It's not like a 6-week program where it's just like 6 weeks of random kids and then you join something else, and 6 weeks of totally different kids. It's like the whole school year of kind of the same kids. So you get to know them, you get to know their families. and, that kind of a thing. So it was kind of just bridging that gap of like community, but also, and flexibility, but also just that fun element that we wouldn't normally get if we were at home.
Awesome. And as a program lead, what do you enjoy most about serving those local homeschool families?
I selfishly started working at Thrive because I wanted to meet the families and the kids and the parents and get to know them and facilitate relationships. And now that I'm a program lead, I really, really love getting to know families. I mean, I was a teacher, so I just love kids as it is. It's just, I really like talking to them. I really like getting to know them, watching them grow and learn and building relationships. So I actually forgot what you actually asked me, but it's really just relationship building is
Good.
what I love about it. So just building the community, having a warm place where kids can go and feel loved and accepted and cared for, while also just facilitating a community that wants to be together, that wants to come back year after year. And, it's just like a positive place for everybody. So that's just a really big blessing of being able to be program lead, because I get to kind of curate that vibe and make sure that everybody knows that we're happy that they're there.
Definitely. Love that. Okay. We're going to wrap this up. I have some rapid fire questions for you.
Okay.
First, favorite state that you have visited?
It's probably, that's really hard to say.
I know it's hard.
I have one location. So the Tetons was one of our favorite places. It was just stunning with the mountains and the lakes and snow caps and forests. And, so that's technically like Wyoming, Idaho area, but I wouldn't say like all of Wyoming because some of it's really flat.
Okay. Well, then that doubles as your best national park too, is the Tetons?
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Most underrated destination?
You know what? South Dakota was really fun. Our kids had a great time at the Badlands. You can climb rocks there, which you can't in every national park. Yeah. And also Custer State Park was just gorgeous. So if you ever want to go somewhere that's not a crazy touristy spot, it's South Dakota.
I agree. We've been to both of those spots. They're really good. Kids loved them.
It is, yeah.
Funniest RV mishap?
Oh gosh. Funny?
I know. It's probably not funny at the
time. Honestly, we were constantly dealing with our water. So we got an on-demand water heater because I just really wanted to have hot showers. And I heard all this stuff about tanks ending. But the amount of time that it was like changing the propane, I feel like every single shower, there was something like making sure the drain was open so that the water wouldn't fill up, or that the propane went out. So then I had to call out, like, can you change the propane? Like in the middle of the shower. Sometimes water pressure wouldn't make the water heater work. So it was like jimmying the sink to make sure it was like the exact right. So it's funny now, not during the cold shower.
No kidding. One thing you absolutely could not live without when you were road schooling? I mean, hot showers, maybe.
I know it was hot. So I said hot showers. I said a full size fridge and a washer dryer were my top. I was like, we must have those things.
Yes.
And so that was our musts.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Favorite.
I do have to have a shout out for Sedona though, because Sedona was that was our biggest surprise. So when it was like, we didn't expect, I'd heard of it, but when we went there now, I'm just absolutely in love with it. We've been 3 times and I would recommend everybody going there. I know it's right near stomping grounds, but
it's just the red rocks are unreal. You can't.
Yeah, it's just unreal. No, you just can't. You just show up there. You're like, goodness gracious, I had no idea.
I know.
The pictures are beautiful, but until you get there,
agreed.
You don't know. Yeah.
Yep. Favorite family memory from the road? I'm sure that's hard to nail down.
I know this is really weird, but my favorite thing was when we would all get in our truck together and we'd have like a playlist on and we were just together and there was an open road and it was this freedom and opportunity and excitement of like what the next place is going to bring. I would just get so giddy. My whole family knows this because I'd be like, I'm so this is the best because we were all together. We were close. We were experiencing it together and there was just nothing but opportunity and ahead of us. And so that's just my favorite times And that was sitting in the car.
Yeah, I love it. Simple joys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So looking back on your entire journey, road schooling in an RV to leading a Thrive community, what has this experience taught you about family, learning, and really honing in on what matters and what you value?
Yeah, everybody's different and everybody's journey is different, and nothing is right and nothing is wrong. And just respecting that everybody is on their own path doing what they think is best. That's what I learned, being on the road, being different than family and friends, seeing people in Thrive, just the diversity of the families and what they're doing and what they prioritize and who they are. And just knowing that kids are learning in a billion different ways, and that I'm just so thankful to just be just a small part of their journey and their decision to be in Thrive and to spend that time with them. But yeah, we're all just different and just doing what we are best, so just loving people where they're at. And yeah,
awesome.
That's what I'd say. Yeah.
Well, thank you for being my special guest and for sharing your story with us today. And thanks for who you are and how you serve Thrive. We really appreciate you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
If this episode encouraged you, share it with another family who might need it. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. We'll see you next time.